Hello, I'm Oral Gibbs, and welcome to Oral Gibbs Live. And with me, I have a very, very, very interesting guest in the program today. I'll tell you what, let me tell you about the sponsors, and then you're going to meet my guest. Windward Islands Bank makes this show possible. They're in 3 locations: Phillipsburg, Simpson Bay, and Cul-de-sac. The Windward Island Bank for all your banking needs. And GEBE, local water and electricity company. GEBE, service in mind about over 5-6 decades. That's GEBE. And I'm Oral Gibbs here with you on Oral Gibbs Live, and the one and only, the man himself, is MP Emmanuel, independent member of Parliament. How are you doing, MP?
I'm doing good, Oral. I'm doing good. I like the introduction. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's like a boxing match. Yeah, but I'm good.
It's always good having you on the program.
Yeah, always nice. Always
so
nice.
You're walking out, man. Only you, Sarah, the only 2 MPs walking out these days.
Well, you know, we got to keep the youth looking youthful. Yeah, if I should use those words, yeah.
That's good. So you're going to the gym. You got your own gym, actually, and everything. Yeah. How much you bench press?
I don't do that anymore, actually.
Really?
I don't do it anymore. But you know, I don't work out that vigorous as I used to do it before, because back then I was into bodybuilding at the time.
Oh, okay.
But now, you know, you sort of change a bit, so it's more cardiovascular and more getting a bit in terms of fit with more sort of your inner self, instead of the outer part with your muscles bulging and stuff. So it's more of cardio that you do. That I do now. I don't, you know, get into the heavy weight lifting and stuff. No, but back in the days, I used to bench press a lot of weights.
Oh, you still climbing those hills?
Still climbing those hills. It's actually, you know, I keep telling people that they gotta come now. It is amazing, Oral, to see St. Maarten from a different perspective. It's beautiful, and you're like, oh my, you can't believe you live on such a small little island,
right?
And then you see places like, I didn't even know this exists. You know, sometimes when you go through one of those advertising magazines from the Caribbean, you'll see waterfalls and caves and rivers. And you'll be like, oh, we don't have those things in St. Maarten. Go. Come and hike and you'll see. You'll see. I was shocked and smitten when I saw David's Hole at La Belle Creole. It's a cave with 2 holes. And the water comes in one way, and it bellows out the other way. And then I was told that it's called David's Hole. It's just breathtaking.
Oh, yeah, we have a very beautiful island.
It's
just
beautiful.
That we don't use it.
We went yesterday, Sunday, to another area called Duck Bay. And that's in Grand Causeway, in the back of Grand Causeway. You have to go through. You should see the property and the hills and the landmark, and the beach is a private beach in terms of not easily accessible.
Oh, okay.
But it's a huge, big beach. It's a beach.
But you got to walk to get there.
But you got to walk to get there. But the walk in itself to get there is also breathtaking. All
right.
Yeah.
So this Sunday, we have to join you in that.
You got to come join
walk,
me,
man.
You got to come join me on it. Yes.
So, you are an independent member of Parliament, and you are, I don't know how to describe, because you're the man that actually, the only one in Parliament that voted against those measures for reduction of our wages, the 3 laws.
Yes.
But at the same time, you have 14 other members, and they're going to be put to the test soon again.
Very much so.
And I want to talk about that and other things.
Sure.
Well, what's number 1 in your mind right now?
I can tell you, you know, one of the most pressing things that is on the top of my agenda, or is this 12.5%. This 12.5% that is stifling our civil servants, our teachers, that will be stifling coming now. When you look at the government-owned companies, you see the union saying, how am I to apply this? How am I to do it?
Right.
And I think it's a measure that you can't call it nothing else but theft. What you're doing is that you're stealing from hard-working people, because you are simply saying to someone, look, listen, yes, I know you work your 8 hours. Yes, I know you're entitled to this, but because, and that's the part of it in oral, but because of this, we are going to cut your salary. But then they say, no, it's not salary. We're going to cut your benefits. your rights by 12.5%. And then you ask them, but based on what? Oh, well, it's not based on anything, but it's just something that we need to do. It's unacceptable. Or it's unacceptable. And why do you have that? You have that because the government simply has no plan. Didn't know what to do. Didn't know where to go. And you ask yourself this question, but wait a minute. Aruba went and they decide we are going to do 12.5%. Curacao decided they're going to do. What was St. Martin's? What did you lay on the table and say, listen, this is what you're saying we should do, but here's the alternative. Here's what we are proposing. Absolutely nothing. But Oral, here the most part that I think is criminal. And one would say, but Chris, those are harsh words. Yes. So we passed this law, or they passed the law of the 12.5%. But Oral, they are paying out all the benefits right now to civil servants who are leaving the government apparatus against the laws. So there are civil servants right now who are also working in government right now, receive all their benefits, receive their vacation pay, receive their gratuity. They have received everything, which is in contravention, which is against the law that was passed, because you're not supposed to do it. The regular person,
even if you're leaving,
if you're leaving, because remember the law goes back retroactively to 2020. Okay. So those benefits are off the table. So even if you're leaving, you're not entitled to those benefits based on the law. But even if you're leaving, Oral, and they're paying you out everything, it comes down to discrimination. Because you can't pay one set of civil servants their benefits and not one set. So in other words, what the message that you're sending civil servants, it's better you leave the job. It's better you resign. It's better you step down. It's better you leave the government apparatus and you're going to receive everything. Then those who are working still can't receive anything. And the government have no explanation for it. The Minister of Finance has no explanation for it. And I am saying, and I'm going to approach the Integrity Chamber. I'm also going to write the governor. I'm also going to write Bezat Khan and ask them to render their advice on this, because it's either or. It's either you pay all civil servants what is rightfully theirs, or you don't do it based on the law. You can't be selective and you can't pick and choose, Oral.
Well, I guess this is very unique because this is the first time in the history of St. Martin that you have that many civil servants leaving the service.
Yeah. Yeah.
It tells you something, too.
It tells you something, and you need to ask yourself the question, why? Why is this happening? Because here's the thing, Oral, right? When you decided to come and work for government can't match the private sector. So the private sector is going to say, look, listen, I'm going to give you $20. Government will say, well, I can't match the $20. I'm going to give you $15, but guess what? You're going to get vacation pay. You're going to get a gratuity. You're going to get a bonus. Okay? You're going to get a telephone. You're going to get a vehicle. You know, the government add these type of benefits, and you're going to be in a pension plan. So you're going to say, okay, all right, you know what? Sure, great. Let me come into government. And now you're working for government. You have built up your service, built up your time, where now you're entitled to these benefits. And government come and say, look, listen, we're going to pass a law that's going to take these benefits away from you. It can't be, and it shouldn't be. And then to add insult to injury and rub it in the wounds, they're going to pay those benefits to individuals that are civil servants that are leaving government. But what about the ones who are working in government? What about the teachers? They're going to get a 12.5% cut too as well. The workers at GEBE, all government and semi-government owned companies, have to apply that 12.5%. And then you have to ask yourself the question, until when? And this government, they cannot tell you what savings it amounts to, and where is it going, and how is it solidarity. And that's the thing. Solidarity for how long and for whom? No one answers those questions. I believe the law should be repealed and everyone should be back in their benefits, enjoying what they have worked hard for. It's nothing that government is giving them. It's what's entitled to them.
But the government agreed with the Dutch government based on liquidity support.
Yeah. And you hear in this, the new state secretary, she said, no, the cuts will remain until you can stand on your own, until you don't need liquidity anymore. And that's where it comes in with now having a plan. And because of not having a plan, the government has no way out. No way out whatsoever. And this is and you know, Oral, we can start to point the finger and say the government this, the government that. But here's my thing. And this is the reason why I am vehemently, and I speak about it, I speak hard about it, against this cohort. I'm not in agreement with other members of parliament that we should mirror the cohort and we should, no, I'm not even having a discussion. And one would say, yeah, but it's here and, you know, we have to make these changes. We have to make what change? And whatever changes, Oral, we are to make should be because we are ready to make them. Not a determining factor by someone else saying, make these changes. For example, Oral, when we came up with the Netherlands Antilles for 10-10-10, St. Maarten had a balloon debt of 600,000 guilders. 600,000 guilders. What does the Dutch government say?
But that was a portion from the former Netherlands Antilles.
Yes. Yeah, 600,000 guilders. St. Maarten, as part of the Netherlands Antilles, we couldn't borrow. So the Netherlands Antilles borrowed.
Right.
Okay? But if you split up the debt amongst the Antilles, St. Maarten acquired about 600,000 guilders. Oral. What does the Dutch government say? Look, listen, your fiscal parameters are not in order. You can't manage your budget. You need oversight. So we are going to create the CFT.
But that was a condition.
That was a condition. But yes, but you see, Oral, this is the reason why I speak the way I speak. And when I say I am not in solidarity with Curacao, I'm not in solidarity with Aruba, my main concern, my only concern at this juncture is St. Maarten. Only St. Maarten. Because we was dealt a bad hand. But we accepted it. Because coming out of the Netherlands Antilles, everything in terms of infrastructure, in terms of experience, in terms of the brain and the knowledge remain in Curacao.
Right.
St. Maarten had to build everything from scratch. And the Dutch government didn't take that into consideration. They did not help us build where we are today. We got no help to build our Justice Department. We got no help to build these ministries. No help. None. St. Maarten did it on our own. So you're going to come now and put the regulations and the conditions on us as the same as Curacao. And I'm saying that's unfair. It's unfair because we needed much more help. We needed much more assistance building the country, and we did not get it. So you put the CFT, and the CFT is saying we are going to overlook and supervise your budget, your fiscal responsibilities, your taxes that you're going to put in, how this budget is going to. So imagine the budget comes to Parliament, and Parliament approves the budget, and if the CFT finds something wrong with it, the budget is not approved. The members that the people of St. Maarten votes for. But coming out of that was 600,000. And the Dutch government said, okay, you need to be supervised. So they put the CFT. The CFT was supposed to be there to guide us in our spending, to guide us economically wise, to do things properly. Oral, under the CFT today, we are 1.4 billion guilders in debt.
But at the same time, MP, you know,
1.4 billion. They
had this clause that if St. Maarten had three consecutive balanced budgets, then you don't need a CFT anymore.
And here's my thing, and this is where we failed. And we failed in terms of the negotiations. And that's why I tell people, we had not one, but we had probably the best government when I was minister, and Richard Gibson was Minister of Finance, and William was Prime Minister. Why? Because we were paying our debt to APS. We was paying our debt to SZV. We would put 20 million aside from the budget. We were working. We was getting things done. But things that the Dutch government wanted to shove down our throats, we refused to accept. For example, the integrity chamber. What happens? Here comes the hurricane. Here comes the hurricane. And the government across the Atlantic facilitate the local politicians in throwing down the government. You remember the phrase, William got to go for much needed liquidity. Look at it today. The 500,000, look at it today. Look, what have we gained from it? Look at our country today. 5 years on. 5 years on. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, MP, I'm going to say this and let me know how you feel about it. People who are watching this program, people who come to St. Maarten and don't understand the politics, but see all the glitter and the gold.
Where's the glitter, Earl?
It's not for us, but for them.
Where's the glitter?
This is a successful island. Things are great here. What are you fussing about?
For whom? Things are successful and glittering for whom? Not for the people of St. Maarten. Look at our food prices. Look at our food prices. Go into the grocery stores. Or now I can understand that prices are going up all over the world. But what's the government solution? Oh, we're going to increase the basket of goods. But when you increase the basket of goods, what you're doing is closing down local moms and pop shops. When you increase the basket of goods, that's the only solution you have. The only solution you have. To talk about food prices? No. No. What needs to be done is regulation. You need to regulate the market of what we import into this country and find out the cost of the origin of that product. Because it can't be, it can't be that you go to Miami and you have your warehouse in Miami. When you buy the product on cents, and then the price is marked up when it reaches to your warehouse.
So you're buying it from yourself.
And you're buying it back, you're buying it from yourself and shipping it to the island for 3 times the price it is. That is where the government need to put down their foot. They need to work. They need to work. Go and get it done. But nothing is being happening. Nothing is happening.
No, they want to stop the little man from buying from Amazon.
And that's it. Or we're going to tax you on Amazon. No. Everything has an origin. Everything has an origin. Okay? Or I can go to Costco in Miami. I can go to Costco in Miami and bring in 40-foot containers into this country. And the food prices will be much cheaper. Much cheaper. Because I don't have a markup as what they're doing. But there are only a number of wholesalers on the island. You know who they are. You know who they are. So where's the glitter? The glitter for whom? The civil servants who's going to be incurring this 12.5%. What is glittering for them? Where's the success? Where is it? It can't be, we boast of the beautiful harbor. We boast of the beautiful airport. We boast of so many things, but yet so many people are suffering.
And we boast of all the beautiful mega yachts, but we have nothing to prove.
We have nothing to prove. And this is the reason why I am saying the discussion or the conversation needs to be different with the Dutch government. I am not here to be antagonist all the time. I am here to say that, listen, the current structure that we are in is not working for my people.
So then, MP,
it's not working.
What makes you different than the rest of them? Because you sing a different tune.
What makes me different is because I am mingling with the regular, normal person. I see what is going on. And I tell them this is what our problem is. Or if we behave here on this island as if the only countries in the world we can do business with is Holland and France. On the French side, it's France. On the southern side, it's Holland. No one else. And I'm saying to myself, you cannot tell me you want my country to be better. Because this is what the State Secretary says. When you get back on your feet, when you're this. But I am in debt to you with the CFT.
And going deeper.
And going deeper. Because you are telling me I can't borrow. And I can only borrow from you. But every time I borrow from you, it comes with conditions. And those conditions are hurting my people. And I am saying, at some point in time, Oral, the conversation needs to be different to the Dutch government saying, no, I am not accepting this anymore. And then one would say, yeah, but it's a law. It's a consensus. Yes, sure. But then, what are you going to do? Send in the troops? Arrest all of us? What are you going to do? Because I want to take care of my people. I want to make them feel better, a better way of life. And I'm saying, borrowing from you is not sufficient. It's not going to work. I want to go elsewhere, and you're telling me no. But then that's not being a partnership. That's not being equality. I listened to the former, I listened to the second governor, the Honorable Excellency Groeneveld. And he is saying that we have to act as a country and not as a colony. Newsflash to the Honorable Governor, we are a colony. Because the moment you are dictated to, fiscally, budgetary-wise, geopolitical-wise, everything, what country are you? Who dictates to Mia Motley? Who dictates to Kenny Anderson? Who dictates to Ralph Gonzalez? Who dictates? No one dictates to them. We are being dictated to. So it doesn't matter how much we act as a country. The Prime Minister say her complex partner is Van Huffelen. No. That's not your equal. Your equal is the Prime Minister Rutte. You see, but we accept those sort of things. Or we don't challenge it. And I'm saying you need to start to challenge some of these things. It's not working for St. Maarten. The current structure is not working for St. Maarten. And what we are going to do, here we have an entity that's breaking us, that we can't borrow, we can't do this. And now here comes the coho, another entity. So now you have the CFT that is controlling your finances. But the coho is going to come now, just recommendations. But they're going to recommend what GB should do. They're going to recommend what the harbor should do. They're going to recommend what the airport should do. They're going to recommend and recommend. And when you don't follow those recommendations, it goes into conditions as long as you need liquidity. And you're going to always need liquidity because the CFT is going to make sure that you could never stand on your feet or stand on your own. And I am saying that conversation I want to have with the Dutch government. I don't want your liquidity. And by me not wanting your liquidity, I don't want the CFT, I don't want the coho. We had a very good government. 2 balanced budgets under Richard Gibson. 2. On our way to a 3rd balanced budget, the CFT would have ceased to exist. And here comes the hurricane. And we told the Dutch government, we were not responsible for the hurricane. We didn't cause the hurricane. But because of that, we had to go into a deficit budget. Right. And because of that, now it threw out the 3 balanced budget. And I'm saying, no, that discussion should have been, listen, yes, we are going in to a deficit budget because of a natural disaster, but the 2 balanced budget stays on the books. And we didn't have that conversation around.
You know, it's difficult for a lot of people to understand because the former Netherlands Antilles, I was never in favor of it. I was always in favor of political independence. So I never voted for separate status or to stay in the Netherlands Antilles. I voted for political independence twice. I look at the island today. Look, I'm still happy that we left the Netherlands Antilles. I think it was the right thing to do.
Right, I believe that too as well.
But something is terribly wrong right now because, and I don't want to be critical of government because people say, oh, you're always critical of government, but they're screwing up.
But you have to be critical of government if the critique is there. You have to. Take for example. Now I read in the papers that the central bank is saying that 10 days, you know, a regular folk can now, once you meet the conditions, you can have a bank account. Or else it's nonsense. Not only nonsense, but let me add another adjective. It's rubbish. It's rubbish. Because I walk into Bank of America and in 30 minutes, I have an account. But what happens? The same reasons that we left the Netherlands Antilles is the same type of behavior we are getting from the central bank, which is called neglect. St. Maarten is being neglected. So here comes Mr. Dordeburn, the director of the central bank, because of the sentiment and the voices now that is permeated and is coming out and is more and more, hey, listen, let's calm that voice and do something new. What St. Maarten needs to do, since the Honorable Governor believes we need to act like a country, then fine. We need to secede from the central bank and occupy our own central bank and make our own regulations here in St. Maarten.
But we have the people that can do it here, right?
But Oral, listen, 200 employees work for the central bank. 200. Out of those 200 employees, Oral, 10 works for St. Maarten. 10. 190 works for Curacao. So what type of regulation, what are you doing for the people of St. Maarten? And who's paying their salaries? St. Maarten and Curacao. But St. Maarten is part of the paying for that 200 employees. And what do we get? 10 employees. Of course you're going to get the banks doing what they want. And that's the reason why we left the Netherlands Antilles, because of neglect. And I am saying the same thing happening right now. The government of St. Maarten is neglecting the people of St. Maarten in terms of their survival, in terms of what belongs to them. Listen, Oral, I listened to the Prime Minister said, look, listen, you know, in Curacao, before the 12.5% came, the government of Curacao indexed their salaries, brought their salaries up. So when the 12.5% come, they had like a buffer. The salaries of the people of St. Maarten and civil servants haven't been indexed since 2012. From since 2012, it affects your pension. The Prime Minister make mention, she's concerned about those in the scale from 1 to 4. Or if your salary is indexed, those individuals on scales from 1 to 4 right now is missing out on 290 something guilders every month, because your salary is not indexed.
And you add that up to the pension.
And you add it, exactly, the spending power. So what happens now? You are faced with a 12.5% cut, and you're also faced with another of your salary not being indexed. So when you add both of them up, it's not even 25%. You're looking at almost 26.3% that regular common folk civil servant teachers are suffering right now. Right now. And what does the State Secretary say? Oh, the cuts are going to remain in place. They're going to remain in place as long as you don't need liquidity.
But you didn't meet with her. Maybe you should have met with her.
No, no, no. Absolutely not. Again, based on the discussion that you had with the Honorable Governor Groeneveld, we need to act like a country. Then if I'm going to act like a country, then I'm going to tell you what you're doing to me is not right. You cannot want to come to St. Maarten on your maiden trip, first time to St. Maarten. You want to meet the faction leaders of the parliament. From that premise alone, you started off on the wrong foot. You can't pick and choose who you want to meet. We are all equal members of parliament, all of us, every one of us. But your thing is, I only want to meet with the faction leaders. Why? Because you don't want to spend time meeting with the people's representative. And then what do? Oh, for 30 minutes. So you're coming from 11:45 to 12:15. That was the agenda. And you put out a 5-point agenda, including the coho was part of the agenda point, and a round robin.
In 30 minutes.
In 30 minutes. So in other words, you're saying every faction leader, which is 7 faction leaders, going to have a discussion with you for 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes. That's an insult. That's an insult. So probably they got hold of my article, and then she decided, okay, well, you know what? I'll give her you 15 minutes more. So it went from 30 minutes to 45 minutes, even a bigger insult, because now you acknowledge you're wrong. You have acknowledged you're wrong. And then, in speaking to some of the members of parliament that met with a good lady, it was made mention that Chris Johnson say, oh, let everybody know that we give you all an hour. You see the type of condescending remarks towards our people? Oral, I'm tired of it. I am tired of people taking advantage. You come from wherever you come. What's wrong with you all? You're coming to my country
but shouldn't
and
Parliament
taking advantage of my people,
but shouldn't you
condescending to my people.
Set the agenda and not the...
Thank you very much. We need to set the tone and set the agenda. This is what we want to talk about. No, the agenda came from BZK. Why? Because they look down on us. And as long as that, and Oral, here's this thing. If we don't address, that's what I'm saying, we need this round table. It's going to, we need this discussion, we need this talk. According to what Dr. Rhoda Aaron would say, this conversation needs to take place. As long as the dichotomy of the white and black or superior and inferior exists, if we don't tackle that issue, slave and colonial master, and colony and the colonizers, and you there and I here, and your ancestors did this to my ancestors, and you're in a privileged position and benefit, we need to address it. Oral, the conversation needs to take place. Else we are going to continue in the quagmire that we are in. We are going to it's going to continue to be like this. You're going to never see me as an equal. Never. Why? Because we are scared and afraid to have this conversation. It's as if we are afraid of white people. It's as if we're afraid of them. To have this conversation, to set this agenda and say, listen, this is the discussion that needs to be had. Why? Because in my country, it's hurting my people when you look at us as nothing else than simply being part of a colonized state.
Well, it's I think for a lot of people, they look at themselves in an inferior way, so they can't really deal with.
Can't relate.
Yeah.
Can't relate, and they're scared to address this issue. I am not, and or it has to be addressed. It has to be addressed because the state secretary can't want to come to St. Maarten for 2 days and believe she knows the whole population of St. Maarten. I hear that she's impressed with the work that is being done on the airport. What work? If you know really what is happening at the airport, there is nothing to be impressed about.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing.
Well, and Peter will be going to put a quick break. All right,
sure.
Then we're going to come right back and continue speaking.
Yeah.
In order to know what you want out of life, you need to observe, listen, and try it yourself.
Promises, we can make it. If we work together, that's just how it is. Let's stand strong, and serve the land. Working hard as one nation, yes we can.
The more difficult it is to achieve, the more satisfying it is to make it.
Just believe in us, we'll see you through it all. Oh, never give up. Oh, never give up. We can make it.
Never forget those who were there for you. And if you dream big, you might just achieve it.
The power to serve, standing for community. OGB got the power to serve, the power to serve. We got the energy. OGB.
Make use of WIB mobile banking with easy access and direct usage of face recognition, PIN code, or fingerprint. Download WIB mobile banking app and make your transaction from anywhere at any time. For more information, visit.
And you see my guest, MP Emmanuel. MP Emmanuel is an independent member of parliament, and we're here to speak with him about all the different issues. So, MP, when you look at it, I know the airport is also on your mind.
Oh, man.
Yeah, right.
You know, I don't know how much more I could speak about the airport and what's happening at the airport. And when I tell people we're going to be in for a rude awakening when the final product or the result comes out with this airport. And I have spoke about it from here all the way, you know, to Timbuktu. And to go along to get along, everyone leaves it as it is. Or if I should use this napkin that I have here on the table, this is the airport structure. This is the airport footprint. This is the airport building as it is right now. So when it was built originally, first, we are talking about breaking down the old building, filling the flamingo pole, resurfacing the tarmac, putting in jet bridges, all those sort of things, Oral, for $90 million. $90 million. Here comes Hurricane Irma, destroying portion of the airport. But the footprint remains the same. The design remains the same, Oral. It remains the same. At a tune of $130 million for repairs, not to rebuild, because the footprint remains the same. The same structure, the same thing. The roof is already on for $130 million. And what happens lately now, the CEO comes out and say he needs $20 million more. $20 million more. And with that 20 million, it's going to add another million passengers to the airport. My question is how? Are you building an extra wing? What extra are you building? Nothing is being added to the current structure. The airport was built for 2.5 million passengers. So by you saying an extra million is the same 2.5 million passengers. Something is wrong, Oral. And then the World Bank sits back and allow this to happen. Ballastnatum was vetted. Blueprints was drawn up. Everything was done. A bidding went out. Everything was looked at. Everything was checked off for 130 million. Now you need 20 million more. That brings it to 150 million for the same structure, Oral. And I'm saying to the people of St. Maarten, no, something is wrong. Something is definitely wrong. And you look at the structure today, you look at the airport today, and you can't see what is being done. No one can tell you exactly what is happening. So the question is, when the bidding went out and it was awarded, didn't they know the overruns and the cost and all these things would have happened? And the NRPB signs off on it. The 20 million extra. Where is it going? If you, Oral, was that contractor with your company, you would have been investigated. Everyone on that airport would have been investigated. Because you would have looked at it and say, something is wrong. And nothing is happening.
What do you think that's happening with the airport? That they're getting away with? What makes you think that they're getting away with all of this?
Why they're getting away with all of it? Because it's a takeover. And this is what I'm saying. We built this airport for 75 years. We built, we manage, and we operate. There was no strategic partner. There was no other entity helping. St. Martiners, St. Martin people, St. Martin government did it on their own. We went to RBC Bank and borrowed the money on our own.
But now our government is assisting in take over.
But of course, now all of a sudden we need strategic help from Schiphol. Why? For what? For what? We, in those 2 years, Oral, in those 2 years, more than $10 million has already been spent with Schiphol as a strategic partner. $10 million. No, I want you to hear what I'm saying, Oral Gibbs. $10 million in 2 years with Schiphol Group as a strategic partner. What is your added value to us here in St. Martin? What? What is the added value to you being part of PJIAE? But when Bezaka, because 90% of Schiphol is owned by Bezaka, which is the Dutch government. They owned 90% of it. When you negotiate with the bondholders, and Schiphol and Bezaka buy those bonds, basically you don't own your airport anymore. You don't own it any longer. Right now we are still paying for those bonds. But I am saying, show me. Because, Oral, the FBO is not built for the private jets.
So they have no plans to build it?
There is no plans to build it.
So it's not a part of this whole...
Have you seen anything? Have you seen a structure from PJIE? What this building back, how should I say it? How is going to look like? Is going to be structured? Have you seen anything? Any type of document? Instead of, oh yeah, this one is interested in this building, this one is interested in this bidding, but have you seen a plan? Have you seen a prospectus? Have you seen anything in terms of drawing what this airport should look like in its completion? We are already heading into March, Oral Gibbs, into March. And they are telling us the final completion of this airport is supposed to be in 2023. That's 1 year from now. Look at it. You tell me if that's possible. And no one says nothing.
Maybe they're afraid to say something.
Afraid of what? Afraid of whom? The Dutch government? You remove Dexter. You remove Mikey Hyman. You remove the guy Rene. The small man. The board sat there and allowed the CEO to spend over 300,000 guilders. And no one says nothing.
Well, you're speaking.
No one says nothing. I'm one voice. Yeah. And it's across the board in our world. Look at the hospital.
I heard that's going to be some serious problem.
Look, I tell everyone, just wait for it. Look at the hospital. And when I highlighted that issue, you know what they said? They're waiting on their bank account to be open. We are talking about $100 million project.
That was resolved recently, right?
It was resolved.
Yeah.
As they say, $100 million project with 6 guys working on it. My neighbor is remodeling his house. He has 12 guys on his house. 12. This is a $100 million project and 6 fellas working. And then, what's the issue? What's the problem? We waiting on a bank account. This is Fenzo. Change their name. This is a multi-billion-dollar company out of Italy that have been vetted by the World Bank, vetted by the government, vetted by NRBP. You are telling me the steering committee, NRBP, World Bank, the government of St. Martin can't approach the banks in St. Martin and say, listen, for such a project, we need a bank account open as soon as possible. And we deal with everything else after. You're telling me nothing of that sort could have been done? But now look at it this way. The bank account is open. But this morning I drive there, They got 8 guys working. 8. What does the hospital say? Oh, the biggest pouring in the history of St. Maarten is going to be done. The biggest pouring. Because those are the things and the words they like to use to pacify the population. And then all of a sudden, oh, the contractor ran out of material. The contractor don't have all the material. Perhaps he don't have all the material because you didn't pay him. Because you was late. Because you didn't meet your obligations. But look at it today, it's still not poured. And they keep giving deadline by the end of the week. And by the weekend it will be done. Something is wrong, Oral. Something is wrong.
You know what someone said to me? Happy, they can't imagine what it will be like if you wasn't there.
I appreciate that.
You know, I don't know if you realize the time there when you was sick and in the hospital, a lot of people was worried. Because, you see, what we have today in St. Maarten is a coalition government of which initially you was a part of the NA. And this is the strangest coalition government I've ever seen in my life. That one member can jump up and call the party founder's wife a dumb something and still is there, you know, and the government hasn't changed. This is crazy.
But not only that, you get the Prime Minister saying that it's forgivable.
What's forgivable?
When he used those words, calling her a DFG, the Prime Minister said it's forgivable. You know? I mean, or derive from all those sort of things. You look at the country and you have to ask yourself, where are we going? Where are we going? I said it on a radio program Tuesday night, and I tell the people of St. Maarten, I want you to be aware and I want you to be cognizant of world activities. And don't just duck your head in the sand. We here, as a small state, we import 99.9% of everything, our food. Just be aware. Or else there's a war brewing right now in Europe. Brewing. Okay? And I keep telling people, it's going to take a lot of bending. It's going to take a lot of compromise. It's going to take a lot of diplomacy for the West and Europe to get Putin to back down from invading Ukraine. What is that going to cost us here? What is that going to cost us here? So we are coming out of Hurricane Irma. We are coming out of the COVID, but there's a war brewing that we should pay attention to because Holland is involved in this war. And Holland, just this week, they are sending a number of ammunition to Ukraine. What's the spillover? What's the consequence to us here in this region? We are still dependent on liquidity. So I'm saying to my country, I'm saying to my leaders, I'm saying to this government, what's your plan? I have a plan. I have a plan. And this is what I keep telling people all the time. I have a plan. We can take care of ourselves. We have the resources to take care of ourselves.
But we have to also be committed to doing it.
But you have to be committed to do it. You have to want to make the hard decisions to do it. We cannot continue with a fuel clause as it is. We cannot continue with the food prices as it is. We cannot continue with a double taxation of pensioners. We cannot continue relying on fossil fuel for our energy. We simply cannot continue these sort of things. It needs to be tackled, and it needs to be tackled now, Oral. Because what we are doing is saddling the next generation in a mountain of debt that they will not get out from. And it's because of us.
Well, it's going to be
because of
extremely difficult to repay that 1.4 billion guilder debt.
1.4 billion guilders under the CFT. And who are we indebted to? 99.9% of that debt is to the Netherlands.
And you're the only one speaking about it also. I don't understand it.
But it's right there. The facts are there.
But it seems like nobody cares.
The facts are there.
But they don't understand what that is all about?
The facts are there. I think I heard a member of parliament, Pantoflet, on your program made mention of it too as well.
Speaking about debt forgiveness.
Debt relief and debt forgiveness and those sort of things. I am talking about debt restructuring.
It's two different things.
It's
really,
two different things. And the conversation with the Netherlands should be, listen, it's not working. Your plan is not working, which includes the CFT. And come high, come low, the cohort itself will not work. It's a regressive entity. Oral. It's going to burden hardship the people of St. Maarten. Because again, when the cohort decide, look, listen, oh, Oral Gibbs live here, this one live there, but this is luxe. But what you consider luxury in your country is regular living for me. What are we going to do when the cohort recommend a land tax? What are you going to do?
Parliament don't have
What are you going to, Parliament have no say? What is Parliament going to say, Oral? What is Parliament going to say? The CFT and the cohort is an entity by itself.
But there was a member of Parliament recently tried to introduce that again in terms of just removing it, because the minister made it retroactive actually, which is, I think is wrong.
It is not wrong, it is criminal. And why is it criminal? Because it affects your basic standard of living. Your basic standard of living. You can imagine individuals who has been teachers all their life, 40 years, 45 years, all their life, contributed to this society, paid their taxes. And today, because one of them fell sick, they have to sell property. Sell property. Prime real estate property, they have to sell it under its value to take care of each other. Something is wrong, Oral. The price of land, housing.
It's going to the roof.
It's going through the roof. It's skyrocketing. And these things are not being addressed. And what is the
construction cost is
construction
also crazy.
cost?
It's crazy.
Okay? What is the cohort saying about that? Oral, I just came back from Panama. Just came back. We have a lot of our people in Panama sick.
So in the hospital in Panama?
In the hospital in Panama. Beautiful facility. They are sick, Oral. Our people are dying. Dying. And we have to pick them up. We have to pick them up and send them away from their loved ones. But we are building $100 million hospital. Is there any plan of medical tourism in it? Absolutely not. We have to be some of the smartest, dumbest people on this planet, because we take up 200 of our people that are sick and send them to Panama to see Juan Miguel Gonçalves, to see Raúl Sanchez, a specialist that is working on your people, cutting them open, patching them up, fixing them up. We send them to that country to see the specialist. Felipe Sanchez is a medical doctor. But we cannot bring Felipe Sanchez from Panama to St. Maarten to work.
And why?
Because of a bicht.
Right.
Because the Dutch says you cannot do it if your degree is not equivalent to a Dutch medical degree.
And
but the Dutch government and the Dutch Medical Association is not in the top 10 rank in nothing in the world. But how is it possible that it's okay to take up the 200 people from St. Martin, send them to Panama, spend millions of dollars, millions oral, housing, food, travel, everything. We are spending millions every year that can stay right here in St. Martin. If we build the facility and bring Juan Miguel to St. Martin, bring Jose to St. Martin, bring the specialist to St. Martin, because we have the facility here. The millions that we are spending in Panama stays here.
Well, MP, just about other time, so we have
the time finish already?
40 seconds.
Oh, man.
40 seconds.
You can't invite me here just for... that was like the
we're gonna have
like
back
man huffling, man. That's 30 minutes. You're like the state secretary now, I'm like 30 minutes, man.
So,
oh, my goodness. There's so much more to talk about. But again, I thank you for the opportunity. It's always good being here just when I was getting on a roll and bringing these facts to the people of St. Martin. But again, you know, like I keep telling everyone, you know, an election is going to come to this country. And I'm asking the people of St. Martin to change and make a paradigm shift. I have a plan. And soon, I'll be revealing this plan to the public.
Well, MP, I want to thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Wish you much success. We're going to have you back soon.
For sure, for sure,
Okay,
for sure.
good. All right.
For sure.
And that's it for now. See you next time. Until then, good night. Take care. Bye.